all of it is life changing. Every single thing that we cover on our platform is life changing. All of it is great information, and all of it will help you to change your life, your perspective, maximize your business, help a lot of people. But as I said, this wealth formula is one of is probably my favorite, just because it has certainly revolutionized how I look at money, how I look at wealth, and definitely expanded my understanding of what's possible. Anytime you can expand your view of possibility, it is amazing. And so tonight, for the time that we have together, it is my goal to help expand your view of possibility with our wealth formula. So, if you know anybody that should be a part of this Zoom tonight, and you know anybody that could benefit from the content that we're going to cover, please feel free to let them know that we are live and that we are going to be sharing some powerful, powerful information. And so I'm super excited to see you guys on. I am going to go ahead and share my screen, and then we're going to get started. Let's see here. All right. So the wealth formula, again, the wealth and retirement formula. And again, I say to you, this is powerful information. So it is awesome to know what to do with the dollar. So it's a question for you to consider as we are going through this information. And you're welcome to even respond, engage a little bit in the chat if you like. Would you agree that most Americans do not understand how money works? And we can probably even expand that from Americans to just say people in general, because I do think it is a lack of information across the globe, right? So whether you're in America, whether you are in China, whether you are in Africa, it is a belief that I truly believe that most Americans do not know what how money works. And the reality is that is not necessarily a slight to anyone, but we're not taught. That's not something that's necessarily taught in our core curriculum in school over the 12 years of primary education that most people have. That's not taught. Most people do not have the luxury of coming from families that had the education. So we kind of just go with what we hear, trial and error, things that we hear in passing, and it doesn't always work out well, right? If you're like me, you have a lot of lumps and bumps uh, that you've experienced when it comes to money, some highs, some very lows, and everywhere in between. But tonight, again, information what we're sharing is powerful. Okay. So, the importance of financial literacy. If you look here on the screen, you see two schools of thought. You see people that have what we call the poverty language, and then we have another school of thought where people have the wealth language, and right in the middle, we have what it should represent the Statue of Liberty, which is a symbol of freedom. Isn't that amazing? So it doesn't matter if you're on the poverty language side tonight. We can shift you. You can shift you to the wealth language side, because right smack dab in the middle is a decision of freedom, right? So on the poverty language side, go to school, get good grades, and get a job, right? I'm sure that if your family, you came from the baby boomer generation or the silent generation, that was a school of thought, right? Get it, go to school, get some good grades, get that good job, work there 30, 40, 50 years, retire, maybe get a watch, maybe get a pension, and that's it. right? When you find a job, keep it. When you find a good job, and a good job, I'm going to put in quotes because that is relative, right? What a good job is. Money is the root of all evil. I'm sure many people have heard that, although everybody wants money and we all realize we need it to live in the world, right? But money is the root of all evil. The rich are robbing the poor. Money doesn't buy happiness, right? Only people that say that are the people that don't have any money. They don't pay much. The rich should pay more taxes, and things have really gotten expensive. So those are the things when you think of poverty language. Those are things. That's the school of thought that people focus on. Not that everything in there is totally inaccurate, but the focus is where we want to kind of gauge. And so when we look at the wealth language portion, it is go to school, get good grades, and start a business. Why? Because if you learn the benefits of owning a business, there's certain tax benefits, there's certain business, but benefits that are built in our structure. But more importantly, it is ability to have freedom. And what is life if you don't have some freedom? Freedom to own your time, freedom to own your decisions, freedom to own your choices, freedom to own how you raise your family, freedom, right? A job is a good place to start, but it's not a good place to finish. There's nothing wrong with a job, right? It's many people have used leverage a 9 to 5, but have leveraged it to go on and build many levels of wealth. So it's a good place to start, but not a good place to finish, right? It's called the corporate ladder, not the corporate bed. So that means, in a bed, you're resting, you stay in the bed, right? It is not meant for you to succeed, really, but it's certainly not meant for you to build your whole life around it. Money isn't everything, but it ranks right up there with oxygen. Yes, it does, right? Because just like we need air to breathe, we need money to do all the things that we need. Money is best exchanged for experiences, not things. That's probably one of my favorite statements on that side because the older I've gotten, the more I've learned, the more I realize things are not as important than experiences. To be able to have experiences that will last forever. Some of the things will come and go. I may lose it, they may break. I may not even care about it anymore. But once I've had an experience, it lasts for a full lifetime. There are experiences that I've had with people who are no longer here, but I still remember how I felt, how they felt, what the atmosphere was like, and those are things that will carry me for a lifetime, right? Money, don't work for money. Teach your money to work for you. And there is, my friends, one of the key things that wealthy people do. They don't work for money, but they teach their money to work for them. They, in essence, employ their money to go out and do good and bring back results, right? Do good and bring back results. And that's one of the things we're gonna highlight tonight. So you are either mastering money or money is mastering you. There's no two ways to know, there's no in between there. Money is either mastering you or you are mastering money. And we want to get to the point to where we are not being mastered by money. We look at money as a tool or a resource to that we employ to go out and do good on our behalf, right? That is what we want to look at it. So what is wealth? Again, as we saw in 2 slides before this, where one of those statements was put don't work for money, let your money work for you. Wealth is the byproduct of money making money for you. That's a good thing to write down if you're taking notes. Wealth is the byproduct of money making money for you. Here's the reality, my friends. We are limited resources. There's only 24 hours in a day, and we as physical as human beings, that's probably a better way to say it. We can accomplish a lot, right? We can do a lot in a day, especially if you maximize your time and have good time management. However, we are limited resources. We cannot work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every week in a month for 12 months out of the year for 10 every year in a decade. We can't do that because at some point we will break down. But money can. Money doesn't have to take a day off. Money doesn't have to call in sick. Money does not have to ask permission. Once you put your money in the right vehicles, that money is now employed by you to go out and make money for you. And that is where we want to get to. Money grows on trees when you realize money itself is the seed and the harvest. Once again, money grows on trees when you realize money itself is the seed and the harvest. That was said by a great man, brother, Mr. Suni Saman, right? And so if you grew up like me, I would hear as a child growing up when we went into stores, don't ask for nothing, don't look at nothing, you can't have nothing, right? And then if you did, because you're kids, you didn't necessarily listen to that. You would, sometimes the answer would be, "What do you think I made of money? Money doesn't grow on trees," and it was not necessarily from a negative mindset from not wanting to do, but it was from that mindset of, maybe the poverty language, right? That I talked about a little while ago, the poverty language. But here we're shifting our language. We're moving from poverty to wealth, right? Because in between we have the image of freedom. So we're moving from the poverty language to the wealth language. And we realize, hey, money grows on trees because when you realize money itself is seed and harvest. Money is something you can put in the ground, right? If you think of sowing, you can put in the ground for seed, but you also can reap it for your harvest. So it grows on trees. That's why this picture is so amazing. Not only do you see leaves, but you see stacks and bundles of money there because it's the image that you need to get into your subconscious mind that yes, you are worth it and it's possible for you to have it. So money is seed and harvest. So write that down in your notes, all right? Money is seed and harvest. So you can definitely look at it from a different perspective. So here, ladies and gentlemen, my friends, write this down because this is worth the price of admission and we didn't even charge you to be on this call, right? This is worth it. This is the wealth formula. It is time plus capital plus rate of return minus inflation minus taxes equal wealth. I'm going to say it again, but I'm going to pause a little bit to let it settle in because a formula will work for anybody that puts it to work, right? Again, doesn't matter who you are, a formula will work for anybody that puts it to work. When you leverage time plus capital, which is money, plus rate of return, which is interest, and minus inflation, that's prices going up, minus taxes, which, that's part of the American way, that will equal wealth. When you plug in this formula into your life, whether you're black, white, young, old, whether you are short, tall, wherever, whether you was born in the north or the south, whatever, whoever, it doesn't matter because it is a formula that works for everybody. It works for anybody that will apply it to their life. Time plus capital plus rate of return minus inflation minus taxes equals wealth. And again, my friends, you're either mastering money or money is mastering you. And I'm not going to let money master me. We're not going to do that. We are going to be wise and good stewards, right? And so we're going to put this formula to work. When you think about the time, and you can write this down, you're putting time on your side, right? Time is probably one of the most precious commodities that we have. And the more of it that you utilize, the better it will be for you. So we're putting time on our side. And when we think of rate of return, we got the capital piece. When we think of rate of return, we want to have a rate of return that will outpace inflation and outpace taxes, right? We all go to the grocery store, that same $20 in 2026, doesn't go as far as it did in 1995 or 1996. But if we are able to leverage the time plus capital plus rate of return, it won't matter what inflation is doing, because we will again have the key to success that will build our wealth, because we're going to leverage these things to grow our wealth, which is why it's a formula. All right. So let's take this as a case study and let's look at this. When we look at this case study, time builds wealth, right? We just talked about that, how time, putting time on your side, it builds wealth. So if you allow your money enough time for the interest to compound and build your wealth, it's going to be great. Again, if you allow your money enough time to work in the formula, right? You know, if you think of math is a lot of formulas and equations, but if you allow your money the time to work in the formula, right? And you are tied to the right vehicle that has compounding interest, you will build wealth. So in this example, you have Mr. Start Early versus Mr. Start Late, right? And Mr. Start Early is taking $3,600 a year and is putting his money in a vehicle that has an 8% rate of return, right? So this is the capital for Mr. Start Early. So remember, time plus capital, right? So this is the capital, $3,600, and the 8% is the rate of return. And now Mr. Start Early is leveraging time, because at 25 years old, we can all agree that's pretty young, right? 25 is pretty young. At 25 years old, Mr. Start Early comes to the wealth formula presentation or talks to somebody who can educate him on the wealth formula. And they tell him, put your money in this vehicle that is going to compound over time. So he listens and he takes his $3,600. And there we see that 36 quickly turns to 3,888, right? Next year, same 36. Now he has 8,087. 27 years old. Takes that 36 diligently, religiously, and now he has 12,600. 28 years old. Same 3,600. Capital's not changing, right? He's not increasing it. He's certainly not decreasing it. Same amount of money. Now he has 17,520, right? Then here at 29, same 3,600. He has 22,000. 30 years old, 3,600, 28,000. 31 years old, 3,600, 34,000. Well, what do we notice here? What happens at 32? There's no more investment, because for, let's see, let's count it up here. For 4, 5, 6, 7 years, Mr. Start Early diligently puts his $3,600 away. And on his 32nd birthday, 32nd year, he no longer needs to do that. But he has already leveraged the first principle of the wealth formula, time, right? We've already seen 7 years worth of capital. And now what we are seeing is the rate of return at 8%. It's starting to work for him. So now he's saying, okay, money, you go out and do your thing. And so what is happening at 32 years old, that money is compounding. So he's not putting anything else in, but at 32 years old, he has 37,000. 33 years old, 40,000. 34 years old, 43,000. 35, 47, 36, 50, 37, 55, and we can go on and on and on, and we up to 48 years old. And at 48 years old, he has close to $130,000, all from a $25,000 investment, or $25,000 worth of capital. Is that good or is that great? I mean, that to me is super powerful, that someone can leverage time. They get a message early. They not only get knowledge or a message early, they apply it, right? So they're leveraging time. Then they go in and they take a certain amount of money, but then now that money starts to work for them because you're either mastering money or money is mastering you. And in this case, Mr. Start Early said, no, I'm going to master the money. And here the money starts working for them. So at 48 years old, that 128,000 is his. And if we go on and on and on, this money will increase all the more. Right? But here's the reality. Everybody doesn't start early. So but we don't leave anybody behind. That's amazing. Everybody doesn't start early, but we don't leave anybody behind. So here on the flip side, we have Mr. Start Late. He didn't get the message at 25. He didn't get it at 26. He didn't get it at 27. He didn't get it at 28. And it took him a little while to grab it. Maybe he's a friend of Mr. Start Early and he's saying, man, I'm seeing what is going on, right? But he catches the revelation at 32 years old. And he said, okay, I'm going to do what you did, Mr. Start Early, because, hey, it worked for you. So I'm going to take that same amount of capital. But I don't have as much time because I didn't get to start as early. I didn't get a head start like you did, but I can catch up. So he takes $3,600 and he gets the same results. He gets the 3,888 year one. He gets the 8,087 year two. He gets the 12,000 at age 34. He gets the 17,000 at age 35. He gets the 36 at age 20. The 22 at age 36. He gets to 28,000 at age 37, the 34 at age 38. I just like going through this because I think it's important for us to let it sink in, right? He gets to 41,000 at age 39. And on, age 40 to 48,000. The difference here at 48 years old, he is at 131,000. Very close to Mr. Start Early. The difference is he has to put more in because he started a little late. So he has to put in 61,000. But even though he started late, look at it. It's still a good day because he comes out about even. He has to put a little bit more in because he didn't have as much time to leverage. But once he catches up, hey, 131,000, same age as Mr. Start Early, and now he can continue to let his money work for him if he decided to, and it will continue to grow. He didn't get as much time, but remember I said the formula works for anybody that applies it. He may have started applying it a little bit later, but time still worked for him. Maybe not as much time, but time still worked. But he still had the same amount of capital, and that rate of return went out and started working for him. So that is, my friends, the power of this wealth formula. It is amazing when you start applying it to your life, right? So we look at this, let's take it a little further, and let's dive a little bit more into the rate of return. When you dive into the rate of return, here's what's important. This is the rule of 72. And what the rule of 72, it says basically how long it takes for your money to double. So it's not just time, it's not just capital, it is the quality of your soil that determines the quality of your harvest. So the vehicle that gives you the best rate of return is the vehicle that you want to investigate, right? And I'm going to share one with you in a moment, right? So that's the vehicle you want to investigate. So the rule of 72, you can look it up. It's all over the place, right? The rule of 72 says it shows us how fast. It's a simple way to estimate how long it takes for your investment to double. So if you're in a vehicle or a strategy that has a 1% rate of return, it's going to take 72 years for your money to double. So that's a lifetime. That's almost 2 lifetimes, right? So at age 29, in each of these examples, the person starting at age 29, because we always like to, leverage time, right? Age 29, starting with the same amount of money, but this person on my far left, your far right, puts his his or her money in a 1% rate of return strategy, right? So that 10,000 does not double until 101. By 101, maybe that's not even important anymore, right? So that's not, we don't want to really focus there, right? At here, this person at a 4% strategy, 10,000, and it says every 18 years the money's going to double. It's better, right? But that 10,000 won't double until age 47, and then it won't double again to age 65, right? Well, here we're moving further along. This person puts their money in an 8% strategy. And so it says it's going to double every 9 years. So 29, you got that same 10,000. But here now, 38, that's looking better. You get 20,000, 47, 40,000, 56, 80,000, 65, 160,000. Now, these numbers are starting to look a little bit more digestible. But here in this 10% strategy, right, every 7.2 years, there's a doubling of the money, right? So here, same 10,000, but at 36 is 20, and at 43 is 40, at 50 is 80, at 57 is 160, and at 65, there's $320,000. So that is incredible because there is an opportunity with the right soil to receive a quality harvest. So look at this. How does your money grow? Right? There are three buckets that I want to talk about, and I hope you're getting some value. If you're getting some value, just put a 1 in the chat for me. Let me know that you're still there, right? I'm just doing a lot of talking here, but hopefully if this is helping anybody, just put a 1 in the chat to let me know that you're gaining something from this call. All right, thank you. I see a few of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. So here we have three buckets. You could have a fixed strategy, a variable strategy, or an index strategy. You get to make the decision on how you would like your money to grow. So in a fixed strategy, right, you're going to see growth. You're going to see it's going to be steady, but the rate of return is going to be low. So if you remember the slide before, you had the 1%, the 4%, the 8%, the 10%, right? In a fixed strategy, you're going to be closer toward that 1, maybe 4%, maybe strategy. So you do see growth, but it's slower, but you do see steady growth. In a variable strategy, though, as you can see here by this chart, your growth is all over the place or lack thereof, because with the variable strategy, there are certain changes that happen depending on the market, and you got to be willing to ride the wave. So right here, someone starts at 0 and their money goes up, and great, is amazing, right? They're seeing growth. But then if something happens that's unavoidable, all that was gained can be lost and then some. You can now be in the negative. But hey, it can rebound and you can go up and you can make that money again or make some more money again. But you got to be willing to know that there's a possibility you're going to lose. And then you're going to go up and then you're going to lose. I'm sorry. And then you're going to ride the wave, right? So it's in the variable market, it is definitely unpredictable. But my favorite is the index strategy. And the index strategy is awesome because it is a marriage between the fixed and the variable. And the index strategy, write this down, you get to capture the gains, but not participate in the losses. I think that's incredible. One more time, you get to capture the gains, but not participate in the losses. So if you have if you look at an index strategy, right here is a stair step, right? So you start here and then you have a little bit of growth, right? But then you see it levels out. You may not make any money here, but you also didn't lose any. Unlike, as you can see, this index is on top of the variable. When the variable you will see in that same instance, they lost money, right? And then, here you gain a little bit more money, And then it may level out for a little while, depending on what's going on in the economy, the market, and things of that nature. But you don't lose. So you're not gaining, but you're not losing. So your money is kind of secure. But then things go up and you gain, you capture the gains. But then, just like it happens, the market levels out a little bit, and you don't capture any gains because there's no gains to capture, but you don't lose anything, and you keep going up again. You make, and then it may level out. In the index strategy, you're able again to capture the gains and not participate in the losses. So here, the way I think, if someone tells me I can put my money in a strategy that I can only win, but I don't have to lose, I want to know more about that. I want to know more about that because that means my money has the greatest opportunity to work its best for me. And remember, you're either mastering money or money is mastering you, right? And we want to put our money to work and we don't want it to master us. So the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Remember that leveraging of time. But the second best time to do it is now. Remember, Mr. Start Early, Mr. Start Late. We don't leave Mr. Start Late behind. We work with Mr. Start Late to catch him up so he can be able to benefit from the formula as well. So bank-owned life insurance, BOLI. That's what we're going to talk about in the next couple slides. Bank-owned life insurance. I want to tell you that success leaves clues. Success leaves clues. And so all of us are familiar with these names on this slide, right? You have Bank of America, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, PNC Bank, Truist Bank. I'm sure some of us bank with these banks. They have invested in bank-owned life insurance. In 2008, when the housing crisis, the reason why the banks needed to be bailed out was because that is where a lot of their investments were in real estate and mortgages, right? But when the housing market went upside down, the government had to bail them out, and so they began to diversify and move their investment strategies, and many of them put their focus into bank-owned life insurance. So, Bank of America owns 24 billion in cash value life insurance. Wells Fargo 19 billion. JP Morgan 12 billion. PNC Bank 10 billion and Truist Bank 7 billion. So again, if these multi-billion dollar banks is saying, "Hey, I'm going to put my money, I'm going to put our investments, the bank's money, and maybe some of their own individual money into cash value life insurance." Again, my friends, success leaves clues. You don't have to take my word for it. You got Bank of America as a witness. You got Wells Fargo as a witness. All right. So here, inflation, are prices going up or is the value of the dollar going down? So here's a stat. For the last 10 years, the inflation rate has been 2.91%. And the value of your dollar decreases annually on an average of 3%. That is very interesting to note, right? So unless your money grows at a rate that supersedes inflation, you are losing money. Let's review. Let's review the formula. Let's review it. Time plus capital plus rate of return, right? Minus inflation, minus taxes equal wealth. So we want to be in a position that we are outpacing inflation. So how is your money taxed? Again, I know this is a lot of information, but this is all, if this, people pay tons of money for this and we're giving it to you for free, right? So how is your money taxed? It's either tax now, tax deferred, or tax-free retirement. So your money that is taxed now, that is your mutual funds, that is your stocks, your CDs, or your savings account, right? After tax money with taxed growth. So you get those things as they grow, you have to pay taxes on it. Your tax deferred is the 401k, which is just a tax code, your IRAs, your annuities, your 403bs, which most teachers and nonprofit organizations have, right? Their before tax money is put in there, but it is taxed upon the withdrawal. So if someone, a teacher, just for example, has saved their money for 20 years, 30 years, at when they go to pull it out, the tax rate is higher. They are now going to be taxed at the higher tax rate, right? It's unfortunate, but it is the reality of these strategies, right? Which many, many, many people have. But many people are learning now about, because they come to the wealth formula, and we spread the news, and we preach the gospel of wealth, right? And we teach people about having a tax-free retirement, and that is your Roth IRAs, and but that is also your cash value life insurance. So it's after tax money with tax-free growth, and we're going to talk about how it is tax-free growth in a moment. So here is the strategy we're going to spend the rest of our time talking about. This is the wealth formula strategy, right? This is, in this case study I'm getting ready to walk you through is a life insurance illustration, right? And here with this life insurance illustration through National Life Group, right, we are able to protect all aspects of this particular person's life. If they die too soon, there's provisions, God forbid. If they become ill, there are provisions for that. And if they live too long, there are provisions for that. So if you look at this puzzle, all of us will, we fall in that puzzle somewhere. Nobody wants to die too soon. We don't wish that on anyone. We don't want anyone to become ill. All right. But we want everybody to live long and prosper. But at some point, every life falls in these categories, right? So your greatest asset is your ability to produce an income. Your second greatest asset is how well you can protect it. So let's talk about this. In this particular case study, I'll go back. This is a gentleman who's young in his 20s, right? And so he's utilizing the formula, right? And in this formula, he's using time. So he's going to give a 20-year funding period. Remember time, that is and we want to make time, we want to use as early as possible. We want to put time on our side. So he's going to be, for 20 years, he's going to fund this policy at a capital investment of $156 a month. It's not a ton of money, right? But it is significant because we're going to leverage the ability for that $156 to grow and work over the course of a 20-year investment period, right? And then the rate of return is going to be anywhere between, because remember, in an index strategy, what this is, we capture the gains, we don't participate in the losses. So anywhere between 6.42% to 15.88%, right? So it's going to be, sometimes it's going to be the 15, sometimes it's going to be the 6, but it's going to be a significant rate of return, right? The taxes are going to be a tax advantage growth strategy. So we won't be paying taxes because the growth is going to be tied to a life insurance policy, and it's going to supersede the current inflation rate. So let's look at this. $156.65 is the monthly investment, right? And if God forbid, and we say God forbid, that this gentleman would die too soon, over $500,000 will be paid out to his family. Now, that does not replace his life, but it does help the family to settle things and to do things that are necessary from the family logistics, right? So that's $500,000, all from $156 a month investment. That is so powerful, right? But hey, if they live too long, which is what we want, we see that there can be this cash that is going to be growing in this strategy, right? Just like I showed you in Mr. Start Early, Mr. Start Late, there's going to be cash growing in this strategy so that as life happens and things happen, there can be money that is there for him to withdraw when needed. And it's tied to a life insurance policy. Is that good or is that great? That is amazing. All right, but God forbid again, if he becomes ill, there is some riders here that will help him in his healing process. We are going to put it that way. There's a terminal illness benefit. There's a chronic illness benefit, a critical illness benefit, and a critical injury benefit. And so there he can leverage this one strategy to do multiple things. This, ladies and gentlemen, my friends, listen to me. This is how the wealthy stay wealthy. And this is how you and I and all the people we talk to can begin to participate in the wealth strategy by exercising this formula. Once again, for our review, time plus capital plus rate of return minus inflation minus taxes equals wealth. Again, how are we in a tax advantage growth strategy? Because it says it right there on in the green, the growth of an investment account tied to a genuine life insurance policy cannot be classified as income and therefore cannot be taxed. That, ladies and gentlemen, is incredible. And unlike your 401k, a loan against your money is void of taxes and penalties. So, many people have had to leverage their 401k for a variety of things, and there are provisions to do that. But if before 59 and a half, hey, you're going to pay some taxes and you're going to pay some penalties, and they add up. They add up. And here, in this case, that does not exist. And 15% average rate of return over the last 20 years of the U.S. Pacesetter. So that has been the average rate of return over the last 20 years. Again, that is what we're talking about with our rate of return, our interest rate. So again, in this strategy we just talked about is a power of compounding interest, point-to-point indexing, and I showed you the indexing model, right? And you only participate in the gains and never the losses. Now, listen, I know somebody is saying that's too good to be true. I thought that too when I first heard it. It's too good to be true. I can only gain but never lose. Well, my friends, it is true. It is true. We want to move our thinking from the poverty side of the table to the wealth side. Remember, that's the first slide we talked about. We want to move it from the poverty side to the wealth side. So again, along after 20 years, there's no more investing in this case study. There's no longer investing active income, but the cash value continues to grow no matter what, because that is the power of compounding interest. Right? So we talked about the housing market, 2008, that if people were invested in cash value life insurance policies that took a hit in 2008 from the housing, they would have avoided it, right? COVID 2020, the world global pandemic, right? And nothing that we could have planned for, nothing that we've seen in our lifetime, right? If we were in these cash value strategies, in these index strategies rather, we would not have gained anything. We wouldn't have made any money because things was all chaotic, but we also wouldn't have lost any money. Right. So this is success, again, leaves clues, and this is the time for us to consider these things. So who qualifies to work with us? This is the key thing. You got a lot of information tonight, but just getting information and not applying it does not do any good for you. So we are licensed professionals qualified to work with anyone. And we can customize a strategy that works for you. Again, we sit down there's not one size that fits all, but one formula works for all, right? So we meet with our clients every 6 months to guide and coach them to their financial goals. So we want you to help us continue not to let this be the secret. We don't want it to be a secret. People need this information, right? So the secret's out. Hopefully this was valuable. I want you to consider who we should talk to and who should know more. Every Tuesday night, someone is on this line giving this information, and it is important to let it be known. Shout it from the rooftop. Tell everybody you need to know, because this formula works. Remember, a formula works for anybody that'll work it. So if you plug in, it will work for you. All right. So I thank you guys for your time tonight. It has been amazing to share this information. I tell you, out of all the calls, I love all the calls. This is one of my favorite because this has revolutionized my thinking, and I hope that it's done the same for you. All right. Till next time. Have a good night, and I wish you all well.